Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Friday morning. Oh boy. Hopefully you can hear me. I changed one thing. I changed one thing on my setup, and somehow music got busted this morning. So hopefully you can hear me okay. That's always the downside, right? When you're a techie and you're doing something and things are going well, and then you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna change something. I'm just gonna change one thing. I'm just gonna change one thing. It'll be okay. Logically, there's no reason that things should change. And then lo and behold, they do. Welcome everybody to Friday. Woo! What a couple of weeks it's been, man. We got a bunch of stuff to catch up on. That's for sure. Oh, I gotta start the Tiki Talks. I forgot that. I gotta start the Tiki Talks. So what I ended up changing, right, was I ended up setting up remote desktop on my stream computer so that I don't have to like keep looking over there for the stream, and I don't have to like move out of frame. This works great, especially when I have like guests on and stuff like that. So I'm working off of like, yeah, thanks, True. Yeah, change freeze. Yeah, I should definitely. My moderators have got a really good habit of being like, don't change anything before. Hey, you'll be happy to know that there was an update available to vMix, and I was like, I'm not running the update. I'm not running the update before the stream, but you have no idea how my security mind was like, ooh, update, go run the update. I didn't run the update. You'll be happy to know that. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Friday Morning's Team of the Hacker. My name, as always, is Neil Bridges, and thank you for joining me this morning. I'm enjoying my lovely... I don't know if you guys know this. I save my chai teas for you all, right? So I have homemade chai tea latte. I use Rishi organic chai tea mixed with some nice deep dark roast coffee, and make me a nice little chai tea latte to start the caffeine rush. Whoop! Immediately this morning, so I'm loving it this morning. We are streaming live across multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Kick. I think that's everything. That might be more. I don't really know. We're streaming across a lot of platforms, right? We're happy to see everybody this morning. This is our Friday morning AMA stream. It's been one hell of a last couple weeks. I'll be more than happy to update you on the last couple weeks as things have happened, in addition to talking news, everything else. As this is our Friday morning AMA stream, we are here to answer your questions about, man, cybersecurity, your career, hacking, professionalism, golf, my cancer journey, whatever the case is. Ultimately, we're here to talk to you and give you the opportunity to sit down with me and chat for a couple hours. We love doing this one on Friday mornings because we get to see everybody from across the globe, across all the different platforms. So if you're from different parts of the world, please don't hesitate to drop it in chat. So show everybody the global perspective that cyber is. Remind them of that. As with anything, we do have moderators in chat. Our moderators are here to keep chat free of racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. We have a zero tolerance for that here on this stream. Moderators will not hesitate to throw around a little banny hammer if you violate any of those. But with that being said, moderators are not here, however, to stifle chat. This is our AMA stream, and we do encourage questions. If you're new to this stream, we absolutely love and encourage questions across the board about anything. What does that mean? You drop a question into chat. At any point in time, our moderators will see a question, push it up onto the screen like that. Yay! They'll push it up on the screen. I'll see it, and we'll answer it. Yeah, pushing changes is never. Again, BeardSec would be happy. BeardSec would be proud of me. I didn't run the update on Friday. So it's been a couple weeks. I'll let some of the questions start coming in. And matter of fact, there's one that came in already from Tails over on YouTube. How's it going? Is it Cancer 0, Cyber Insecurity 15? So, funny story. Again, not advocating for violence anyway whatsoever, but we recently saw the United Healthcare CEO had a small, minor, unfortunate run-in in the downtown streets of New York a couple days ago. As luck would have it, that happens to be where my health insurance is from, is United Healthcare. So why do I bring the correlation up? Well, for the first year and a half-ish of my cancer journey, we had no problems with United Healthcare at all whatsoever. They approved everything. My doctor was sending me for all sorts of stuff. They approved all my scans and everything else. We had no issues whatsoever with United Healthcare. As a matter of fact, it was, I was like, I don't know what people are talking about. This is great, right? And so, that was fine. Then I think it was earlier this year, April, May, somewhere around there this year, we started to get a bunch of denials, right? So one of the scans, I think I've explained this before, one of the scans that they have me do is called a PET scan, PET, like your pet, like Rover the dog PET scan. And it's a CT scan where they inject you with a nuclear dye, and they bring it in this very much like this little tiny sophisticated aerospace looking container where they open up the door and they pull it out with prongs to inject you with it, which has always floored me. Why do you give the cancer patient something that you're afraid to touch with your own hands? Whatever. It is what it is. But so anyway, they inject you with this dye, and then they basically do they do this CT scan on you, and what it's supposed to do is this dye is supposed to illuminate the cancer cells in your body, right? So anyway, long story short, a CT scan only measures the mass, right? So they'll just see a big white thing kind of hanging out in your body, right? When they do the CT scan. The PET scan is supposed to tell the doctor if the tumor is actually alive or not, right? Exactly, right? Yeah, Cybertize has got it right. It looks at the sugar and stuff, right? Exactly, 100%. And so it helps the doctor understand whether the tumor is actually alive or whether it's just dead and it's just waiting to get absorbed by the body, right? Well, so since April-ish or so, United Healthcare started denying the doctor's request. And at first it wasn't that big of a deal because when they denied it the first time, the doctor can do what's called a peer-to-peer, where they force United Healthcare to get another doctor on the phone, and my doctor explains to the doctor at United Healthcare why he needs a PET scan. And lo and behold, that worked. Apparently, when doctors talk to each other, the doctor's like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. You should totally do a PET scan. Imagine that, right? When doctors talk to each other, they realize that there's value in that type of treatment, right? So anyway, all of a sudden, they stopped allowing my doctor to do those peer-to-peers. And so now they were denying the PET scans, and they were denying the doctor the ability to do a peer-to-peer. And so we thought it was odd, but we just kind of pressed through because we were still in treatment, blah, 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 blah. So we get to September. You guys remember September? We came off of meds. We'd spent a couple months off of meds. We were supposed to, having come off of meds, then go back and get an updated scan to, again, prove that the tumor was indeed dead. Well, the first one of those, remember, I had a down moment where, it got denied. And I was like, okay, you know what? No big deal. We're only a couple months off of meds. Then we got to be 3 months off of meds, and they had denied one. And then we were going to have our one last week for Thanksgiving. I think this is the big update that you guys were talking about, right? We were supposed to have the big one last Monday before Thanksgiving. And I kid you guys not, I got a phone call Friday night at 4:30 from the imagery team where they kind of give you that pre-briefing. Hey, make sure you fast, 12 hours before. Here's what's going to happen. Here's when you arrive at the doctor. So Friday afternoon for a Monday scan, I'm like, we're good. Insurance approved this. We're fantastic. We're going to roll with this thing on Monday. It's going to be a great week. I shit you not. 2 hours later, I got a note from the doctor that United Healthcare had denied the scan again. Automatic denial. I can't even begin to tell you how much that wears on you mentally when that shit happens, right? So scan didn't happen last week as we had hoped it would. It is what it is. Can't really do anything about it. I mean, we're gonna do a couple of things about it, right? So I mean, like this week it's on my list to call United Healthcare and yell at them about stuff, and the VA should in theory pay for it as well. But and then all of a sudden you see what happens. Like the United Healthcare CEO gets on a live this week, and I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm not gonna lie. Like it was kind of like, I wonder why that happened. Right? I mean, like it did not surprise me at all, right? And I'm not advocating for violence by any stretch of the imagination, but after having gone through this with my cancer journey, anyway, new scan is scheduled for December 19th. Keep our fingers crossed. Maybe United Healthcare has a change of heart when their CEO gets gunned down in the middle of, Manhattan. Who knows? But I don't know. I appreciate everybody checking in. I really do. Yeah, new denial scheduled for December 19th. Dude, Beardsec, I'm trying really hard not to think about that, dude. I'm trying really hard not to think about. But it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I appreciate you guys' support. I really do. It means the world to me. It means the absolute freaking world to me to have you guys' support, and I really do appreciate it. You guys have been there for me through a lot of this. You guys have stuck with me side by side as we've gone through a lot of these trials and tribulations, and so I really do appreciate it. But man, I can tell you unequivocally, it's getting hard to like keep getting denied this stuff. It's pretty rough. Oh, yeah, new denial. That's probably the best one of the morning. And somebody over on YouTube's correcting me about the chai tea thing. I'm sorry, Gurov. You're right. It's chai and tea are the same thing. It's hard. It's a habit. It's an American habit. You go to the menu at the coffee shop and it's like, oh, I'll have a chai tea latte. It's on the menus at American restaurants. And so it's my fault. You're right. That is the correct way of saying it, but I appreciate you. Thank you, Neil, for all you do for us. You, David Bob, the reason I started this journey. He did a Q&A to you, and you were his guest. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I absolutely do love, having all you guys, find me over on David's channel and come over here. I really do appreciate it. It's been a great journey as we've been streaming these years. I do appreciate it so very much. Over on LinkedIn, Ray Floyd over on LinkedIn. I love it. Drop your questions in everywhere. I know we've got a couple questions over on YouTube too. I'll cycle back around over to YouTube here in a second. Ray Floyd, who's new to the channel, says iPhone Android encryption vulnerability in the news. Listen, like, what about it, right? Like, I think that there's a lot of weirdness going on with mobile devices and specifically around telecom. If you saw the 60-second cyber that I put out a couple, like maybe it was last week, I think the 60-second cyber I put out last week that talked about the T-Mobile breach again. This one, kind of being tied to nation state attacks. I always like to start out like it shouldn't come as a surprise. It should be pretty obvious that there are quite a few, nation states are always hacking everything that they can. If it is of national strategic interest to them, then they will hack it. And this is the exact same, right? When it comes to things like, telephone systems, they are of strategic interest, right? To any adversary that exists out there. Hey, just in case you weren't aware, their telephone systems are of strategic interest to us. Hell, our telephone systems are of strategic interest to our own law enforcement, right? And so there is a ton of the telecom system is always under the attack. Encryption is always under attack. And so it shouldn't surprise anybody when there is a vulnerability discovered. And I tell this story sometimes. When I was at the agency, there was an entire division, multiple divisions in some cases, depending on the specialty, where they were hiring the smartest people in the world to do nothing but to break encryption, to find vulnerabilities, to break the systems that everything uses on a day-to-day basis, right? There's a reason that the FBI and some intelligence agencies ask for encryption backdoors. They ask for encryption backdoors because they're tired of spending money, time, and resources on breaking encryption. If they could just get a backdoor to it, then they wouldn't have to spend money, time, or resources on cracking encryption, right? And so it shouldn't come as a shocker whenever we see vulnerabilities surrounding encryption in the news. And so Ray follows up with, suggested solutions for end users. That's the right answer, right? And so the first thing when we talk about suggested solutions for any vulnerabilities is to assess your threat model, right? Assess your threat model. And this is probably the hardest thing for most aspiring or early level cybersecurity folks to kind of come to grasp with, right? And that is that, I know, like, the amount of times that people have clipped this and sent it to their, like, hyper paranoid tinfoil hat, loving people whenever I say this absolutely astounds me. But if you're talking to your mom about Thanksgiving plans and who's bringing the apple pie, there is no recommended solution for end users. I mean, come on. Let's be realistic, right? If you're just talking to your mom about your golf plans for the weekend, you do not need to go overboard with a super high-depth encrypted telephone with, signal and end-to-end encryption. Like, be real on your threat model. Now, I say all that to say, I did provide executive protection services for Miles White, who is the CEO of Abbott when I was there. We built an entire executive protection, cyber detail around him, right? And that was vastly different, right? Because he was, doing multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar M&A deals all the time, right? And so we had a different threat model for him than we had for a lot of other folks. And so that's why I bring up the threat model, is that when your first suggestion for your end users is to pay attention to your threat model. What is your threat model, and how impactful is this type of realization for your threat model? That's the hardest thing to do, right? And when it comes to that, right, if the cell phone encryption is breached, then you have to look at the layers, defense in depth, right? This is cybersecurity 101, right? It is defense in depth. If you have a vulnerability in a base layer encryption, what can you layer on top of it to provide the level of protection that you need for your threat model? And so this is why the government, as a matter of fact, has come through and said, hey, you should probably switch to some end-to-end encrypted chats. Right? Signal, WhatsApp, Wired, I think, is still around. Telegram is not end-to-end encrypted. Right? Might be the new hotness for a lot of you, but it's not end-to-end encrypted. Right? And so, that's why those suggestions come into play, is so that you can rely on other end-to-end encrypted devices. And so my suggestion for your end users, if you're thinking about this, is A, assess your threat model and be realistic. Like, hey, Neil's telling us to be realistic. I know, gasp. Be realistic with your threat model, right? And then assess the controls you can put on top as you're being realistic to that threat model. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Um, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff, you know, that always comes around about this, makes people like, I mean, listen, like as if it wasn't already readily apparent, the news is there to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Um, I was very excited when I started to work at INE and we had a PR person and she was obsessed with getting me on every news channel that she could get me on. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Um, but one of the things that I quickly, unfortunately, started to absolutely loathe and hate about the process was that they wanted me to sensationalize everything. Everything I would talk about had to be incredibly over the top and sensationalized. You know, I don't do news stuff anymore, right? I don't do news stuff anymore. Like I've turned the PR lady down. She's called me, from INE since I've left and been like, "Hey Neil, can you do a news thing for the local news station?" I'm like, "Nah, pass. Hard pass." Because all they want is they just want that sensationalization, right? And so like the news is going to make this out to be a pretty big deal. I mean, I believe that, Beard Sec. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. Joined on Twitter, then realized the chat gang is here on YouTube. The chat gang most of the time is either on YouTube or Twitch. The active chats are definitely on YouTube or Twitch. If you're looking for the real active chats, I think everybody loves the Twitch chats, traditionally speaking, just because of the emojis and the fun that you can have inside a Twitch chat with the channel points. We had somebody redeem the channel points for a mentoring session. Don't forget you can do that in the lower left-hand corner. There's the channel points. Everybody gets channel points for paying attention to, and you can redeem those for mentoring sessions. They've added some new stuff too, which I thought was pretty cool as well. But yeah, like I genuinely love the Twitch experience, more than anything else. Question coming in from YouTube from Rebellious Rainbow Unicorn. I think I saw somewhere that this was Rebellious's first stream with us. Rebellious, thank you so very much for tuning in. We're absolutely glad to have you here, as well as all of the new viewers we have today. What do you think of Occupy the Web? I don't know. Like, he's a dude, right? Who does content, right? It's the same thing I think about any content creator, right? You should get your information from people who have a reputable source and provide you with informational value. And if they do all of those things, then that's good. Then that's good. I'm not here to bash. Like, I hope that this question, when they come in, I hope when these questions come in, they don't come in as being like, oh my God, Neil, are you going to bash on this guy? Like, Jamie says, is he legit? So that's a valid question. Let's talk about the definitions of legit, right? I put myself out there. You know who I am. You can go Google me. You can look at my LinkedIn. Hell, you can call any of the people that I've worked with for or with and whatever in the past, and they will validate me as a person, right? I've got the chops to prove it, right? I'm always skeptical, when people hide behind a moniker. And this goes for anybody. I don't know OTW from a hole in the ground, right? But and let's make sure we're having this conversation in the context, the right way, right? You guys know who I am. The FBI knows who I am very, very well. I've done tons of CI work, for the FBI. Do you think that I, being the person that I am, can come on anybody's stream, whether it's David's or mine or Jerry's or anybody's stream, and talk about illegal activity that I do frequently, period, dot? I can't do that. But you should be asking yourself, does that necessarily mean it's not happening? Right? The best hackers in the world are the ones who don't brag about the stuff that they do. You know why they don't brag about it? Because every hacker who's ever been caught, they got caught because they bragged about it. Right? And so I question oftentimes the legitimacy of folks who hide behind a moniker and don't allow for the transparent validation of the work that they do. But I don't know the person. I don't know him from Adam or Eve. And I can't validate that. So I can't opine on whether he's legit or not. But my personal fundamental belief on people is that if you hide behind a moniker, you can say anything you wanted to. You could say you did this. You could say you did that. You could say you hacked the NSA for all I know. And people either have to make the choice as to whether to believe you or not. At least when I come on here, give you my real name, you can call anybody in my history and they'll validate the things that I've done, right? And give you that opportunity to do it. At least you have that opportunity. And so, like, when you ask if it's legit, like, you should apply your own critical thinking to that and ask yourself, how much credence do you put into somebody who has an online persona that you've never seen their real face, their real name, their real identity, you never had a chance to vet their background, but yet they say they've done all these extravagant things and they've got all this extravagant experience. You should apply that to your critical thinking. This isn't new. This isn't, again, if OTW was here, I'd say the same thing in front of him, right? And it's not a bash against him. I would say this for anybody. I'd say this when you go on to Udemy and you're looking which, course to take on Udemy, and you see Jim Joe Bob SpongeBob Pants on Udemy offering, the most advanced hacking course in the world, you should go research them. And you should find out what their history is and what their experiences are. And you should ask yourself if you can put credence or legitimacy to the things that they're saying based on their experiences. And if you can't, then that should weigh into your decision about whether to give somebody money or not. Right? And so it's less about whether I think he's legit or not. And it's more trying to teach you all how to apply critical thinking when people are claiming to be experts online. I think that's the part that frustrates me about content creation as an industry, right? It's a double-edged sword. Anybody who hears my voice now or in the future can go out and start content creation today. You need a camera. Maybe you don't even need a camera. You just start a blog. Like, it doesn't matter. You go start content creation today. Your legitimacy is purely invented from Jump Street. You could claim to be any level of success from Jump Street. What ultimately you're relying on is you're relying on the ignorance and the inability of your audience to validate through critical thinking whether you can be trusted or not. I think that's fundamentally the problem with content creation. So, roundabout way to say, listen, like, I'm sure the dude's solid. I don't know him. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't put a lot of confidence into folks who hide behind an anonymous moniker. Right? But it is what it is. I just saw, did I just see that it was Callie's birthday? Aw. Happy birthday, Callie. Everybody in chat, sing happy birthday to Callie super fast. Happy birthday, buddy. It's good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. I meant to text you and ask you how life was in South Korea this week. You guys had some exciting times in South Korea this week. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, Jamie hits the nail on the head. Hell, since you can't see him, when he speaks, it could be an AI voice. Absolutely, absolutely. And some people may be like, "Oh, that makes it even more, credible because he's with an AI voice." Not necessarily, right? Again, and again, like this is it. He touts being a high-end instructor for for other alphabet agencies. So do I. The difference is that you can go and validate mine, and I've had people on here who have validated my experience as well. AJ knows me from my days there. We had General Alexander, who or not General Alexander, we had General Williams a couple years back. That stream is on there. General Williams I worked directly for at US Cyber Command, right? He validated my experience live on stream, right? We've had generals and other folks that I've dealt with in the military come on and validate my experience from the military, right? So again, I just say like, and that's not to say I'm better than him. And again, I'm not trying to impose that upon you. And I'm not trying to say one thing is better than the other. I'm just trying to say, put those two things in comparison when you're choosing as to how to do things. Yeah, exactly. It could be. And this is it. This is it. When you start thinking about it like this, it could be anybody. And so what you're really talking about, and again, I want to make this expressly clear. We're not picking on OTW by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm trying to teach you guys critical thinking. Right? You should critically assess when you start to have questions of doubt to legitimacy. You should start to apply that to your critical thought process and be like, maybe this is like a less than usual type of credence that I would put into something. Again, and that goes for anybody across the internet, right? Again, this isn't anybody who does vigilante offensive work, anybody who I'll give credence to anybody who claims to be a veteran or claims to have worked for the United States government. I always thank them for their service and sacrifice, because few people understand the service and sacrifice that comes into working as a government agency, government employee, in the military or not, right? And so, like, again, this isn't a bash session on him whatsoever. What I want you guys to walk away with is a feeling of critical thinking. Speaking of military, do you think the military is a good route for cybersecurity? So this week, I had a very amazing opportunity. I really, really need to put this picture up on social media. But I had a fantastic opportunity. One of your community members is down at Camp Lejeune down here in North Carolina. Invited me to speak at the Defensive Cyber Operations Company at Camp Lejeune on Monday. And I absolutely love speaking to my fellow military veterans. Absolutely love speaking to my fellow military veterans. If there's veterans in chat, as always, thank you for your service and sacrifice. I really do appreciate it. And this is a room of about 75. It's probably one of the larger audiences that I've spoke to in a really long time. There's about 75 Marine Corps folks who are in there, all doing defensive cyber, folks who are writing detection rules, folks who are operating a SIM, intel folks, things like that. And we were just kind of talking about the state of cybersecurity. I'd given a talk on cloud security and data centralization and stuff like that. That's what I was primarily talking to them about. And when I started to talk to them one-on-one, I really got into, like, why did you join the military, right? Why did you join the Marines specifically? And there were mixed. Like, I had one kid who was like, oh, I just joined the Marines because it was the Marines. And I was like, you're the crayon eater. I know you're the crayon eater. If that's your answer, you're the crayon eater. Kidding for any of my Marine vets who are in chat. Anyway, and then some of them were, were like, oh, I want to serve my country. Some of them were like, oh, I wanted to get an education. Rarely, rarely do people talk about going into the military for cyber. right? Rarely do people talk about going in the military for cyber. And I had a coaching session. Somebody booked time with me on TopMate. Reminder, you can hit !coaching and chat to get my TopMate link. But I spent I think it was Monday night, I spent an hour with an individual, and we were talking about reality, about going and doing cyber work for the military. And so I'll share with you what I shared with them. We're speaking predominantly about the U.S. military. I don't know how it is in other countries, and so take it with a grain of salt when it comes to other countries, right? But when you go to the military enlistment processing facility, MEPS, right? And you walk up, actually let's take a step back. Let's go back to the recruiter's office, right? So you walk into the recruiter's office in the US and you're like, "Hey, I want to join the military." First of all, you're like a baby seal that's bleeding in a sea full of sharks when you walk into a recruiter's office. If that's not readily apparent, I don't know what is, right? They look at you and all they see is they see a number on a quota that they have to fill to get people into the military. Period. Dot. That's what they see, right? They don't care. Like, and if this isn't clear, let me reiterate it for you. They don't care what job you get and whether you're happy with it or not. They have a sheet of paper that says, I need 10 cops, 3 aircraft mechanics, 2 fuel people, and 1 cyber dude next year. Right? That is exactly what they're looking at. And so what they first have to do is they have to assess you. And when they assess you, they're going to have you take what's known as an ASVAB. Right? And the ASVAB is basically a standardized test that tests you for your aptitude, and I think it's like 5 or 6 different areas, right? Engineering, logic, science, I think, administrative. I forget what all the categories are on this. Somebody can look it up, right? So what happens, they test you and they get your scores back, and then they look at their scores and say, what jobs do you not qualify for? That's what they do. They look at your scores and immediately disqualify you from jobs. And then there'll be a bucket of jobs that you qualify for based on your ASVAB scores. Notice that in this process, if they even took the time to ask you what you wanted to do in the military, they don't care. Because what they're doing is they're looking at you as a person with the ASVAB scores that you've got and says, what bucket of jobs do I have quotas that I can stick you into, and how do I convince you that that's the best freaking job in the Air Force or any other branch for that matter? Let's assume, for the sake of argument, right, that you get the ASVAB scores high enough, right, to get into an aptitude where you could be in one of the technology careers. Because the guys in recruiting, they don't know a cyber job from a security forces job, right? And so let's say you had ASVAB scores high enough. Let's say that you had done some hack the box, try hack me, whatever the case is. They're going to look on their billet sheet and be like, cool, I've got 4 open billet seats for cyber, and I've got 15 people who want to go into cyber who have already pre-cleared. Cool. When I get billet seats, I'll call you up and invite you to come apply for that billet seat in cyber. And then they put you on a delayed program, and then you go about your life, and it could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year before a billet seat opens up for you to go into cyber. There are legitimately people who have sat on a delayed enlistment program for, 18 months or so while they waited for a billet seat to open up. Right? And so let's assume, again, that you get one of those billet seats. They're going to call you up and be like, hey, I've got a billet seat for cyber. Do you want to come in? And I'm gonna use my military days. 1B4, 1 Bravo 4 is the AFSC code for cyber. Network warfare operator is the technical word, but it is very generic. It is network warfare operator. And so let's say that I got the call up tomorrow. Hey, Neil, we got a billet seat that opened up for network warfare operator. Are you good to go for basic training in a week or two? Absolutely. Boom. Let's go process you. Let's get you on a plane to go to basic military training. Okay? You go to basic military training. From the day you step foot into basic military training, their mission is to prove that you are unqualified for the job. They will PT you to death. They will book you to death. They will discipline you to death. Their job is to wash you out. So you've got 8 weeks of basic military training that you've got to survive. And then you'll go to tech school. And tech school is the same. It's network warfare operator, which means that they're going to teach you stuff, right? That's very generic for the general job code of network warfare operator. And it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, whatever the case is, right? And the entire role of that tech school, if you will, again, is to decide if you're smart enough to stay in that career field. So they're trying to wash you out of that job role before you even get started. Now, let's say that you're in tech school, you're doing really, really well, and you're like, I want to go do offensive ops for the NSA. The military still doesn't care, right? The military doesn't care. You are now property, and I know this is sometimes hard for folks. You are property of the U.S. government. I was having a funny conversation with my wife the other day because we were having this conversation about military bases, military installations, things like that. Did you know that if you got a tattoo that was outside of regulation, you could be charged with an Article 15 for damage to military property? 100%. Like, that's when I say that you are the property of the United States government, that is exactly what it means. All right? If you got a tattoo that was out of regulation, you're getting an Article 15 for damage to military property. Or sunburn. Yeah, absolutely. Duke or sunburn. Absolutely. And so because you're property of the United States government, you can say you want to go do offensive cyber all you want. What's going to happen is when you get to the end, when you get close to the end of your tech school, they're going to be like, what bases do you want to go to? That's what the choice that they give you. They give you the choice of what bases you want to go to. And then they will say, okay, what billet seats do I have open in these bases that I can stick a network warfare operator? Not an offensive security person, not a defensive security person. Like, they don't look at it like that. And they will stick you in that billet based on that base location, based on the needs of the military. Based on the needs of the military. And I can assure you, there is much less of a need for offensive cyber folks than there is for defensive cyber folks in the military. As if that wasn't readily apparent. Right? And so I say all that to make sure that everybody's grossly aware of, generally speaking, what the process is to get a job that you want to in the military. And so with all that being said, if you can make it through all of that, I think the military provides a fantastic opportunity not to learn cyber, but to learn strategy, to learn discipline, to learn geopolitics, to learn about strategy to task. They'll search you up one side and down the other. They will have no problem using the taxpayer dollars to get you any cert in the entire world. Free to you, but, taxpayer pays for it. But you will not learn the advanced stuff that you think you're going to learn in the military. You will not learn leet sauce 0-day writing capabilities. You won't learn, special threat hunting techniques to hunt Chinese APT that are so unique to the military. You won't learn that stuff. Why? Because the process is the same. And in the case of offensive security, it's way more strict. And it's way more regimented than I think people realize to do offensive security for the military. Remember, the military, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, the military branch is a war fighting apparatus. War fighting, which means that cyber for warfare has to serve the objectives of deny, degrade, oh God, my 5Ds, deny, degrade, destroy, disrupt, maybe disable. I can't remember. Somebody who remembers the 5Ds can drop them in the chat, right? That's your goal doing military grade offensive cyber, right? It's not popping boxes and like, hanging out inside of a command line, right? As a matter of fact, agency wise, when we think about the agency kind of has two different arms, right? When you think about the agency as being TAO, which is Tailored Access Operations, and you think about the intelligence gathering mission, the 315th was the one that I was with when I was in, right? 315th Network Warfare Squadron. TAO, Tailored Access Operations, their entire objective is to gather access to systems that can eventually be used for intelligence gathering purposes, right? The intelligence gathering mission set, so like the 315th, and I think that there's, I don't know all the Navy, Marines, Mars Cyber or Navy Cyber, R Cyber, all those, I don't know their particular units, but their goals are to get intelligence gathering requirements from the intel team and go execute an intelligence gathering mission. Yeah, deceive, deny, degrade, disrupt, destroy. Thank you. I was like, I know it's been too long since I've dealt with the 5Ds, but yeah. BeardSec has the alternative dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge. And so it's great for learning. It's great for discipline. But make no mistake about it. If you're thinking that you're going to be some top tier echelon, like I think that there's listen guys, we're nerds. Right? Like I know this may come as a shocker to some of you, but we're nerds. Some of us bigger nerds than others. BeardSec. Love you, boo. Love you, boo. Right? We're nerds. We're not SEAL Team 6. We're not JSOC out of brag. Right? We're not we're not first sauce out of Herbert Field. Right? We're not called upon as nerds in the military to like get on a midnight flight to go on a boat in the middle of the African Ocean to try to rescue Captain Phillips from Somali pirates. Right? That's not how cyber works. I know that we all watch movies and we all think that that's what it's like, but like that's not how cyber is. Cyber is very much a manufacturing line, if you will, in the military, right? Here's your op org, Neil. Here's the boxes you have to go, get access to. Here are the tools you have to use to get access to it. When you land on this box, here's the file folder that has the file that we need. You're there to go grab that file, bring it back, and give it to the intel person. You don't even get to see it. You don't even get to see the file that comes back. That file could have, Bashar al-Assad's, personal harem list for all you know. Or it could have the military, it could have the launch codes for some secret nuclear bunker he's got. You don't know because you don't get to look at it. Right? And so you're truly, on the offensive side, a glorified dump truck driver that gets your orders from the intel team. You go, you get the stuff, you bring it back. So yeah, I mean, like I said, take it for what it is. Take it for what it is. Lots of good things. I'm not trying to bash it. I saw somebody saying, I think I saw somebody see over on YouTube where like, oh, I wouldn't give it up. I'd go back and do it again. Yeah, if I could do it again, I could. Infantry Marine here, 10 years retired. Absolutely. I got out at 10 years, not because I wanted to. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. It was not because I wanted to get out at 10 years. I would have stayed in 10 more with everything else that was going on, because I loved the mission. I loved the discipline. I loved doing it that way because I knew I was making a difference. Even if I didn't have access to why I was making a difference, to me, it felt like a natural place to be. I was getting paid shit. Like I get the Marines on Monday, bless their hearts. One of the folks in the back, he was an officer, so you could tell he was tone deaf to the enlisted folks. Picking on my officers in chat if I got any officers in chat. Raised his hand and asked me if I minded telling a room full of 70 Marines how much I made salary-wise. I did not tell them that by any stretch of the imagination. But I do pretty well for myself. And I didn't in the military. I barely crested 55K on my last, W-2 that I sent to the government before I got out, right? Chump change, right? And so I think that there's tons of great things about the military. I would hands down go do it again. I would absolutely have stayed in if it hadn't been for my knee injury. I still to this day think it's absolutely asinine that like you can't be an offensive cyber warfare operator with a bum knee. Never knew that was a conversation that needed to be had, but sure it was. I couldn't run a mile and a half in 12 minutes, and so they kicked me out. I didn't kick me out. I chose not to re-enlist because I would have gotten kicked out if I had. But anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying, saying all that. Take it. I don't know that there's like a yes or no to that. It depends on what it is you're looking for. There's a couple other military ones that happened in there as well. Yeah, here we go. Vet here. Thank you for your service, Karmic. VA wants to send me to school for cybersecurity. They gave me Divergence Academy and Intellectual Point for school choices. I've never heard of either of those, ever. If you want to book some time with me, I'll do some research on your behalf and I'll get back to you. But I've never heard of either of those. There's somebody in chat that says that they went to Divergence. Maybe they've got some experience for you on Divergence. I've never heard of either of those. Yeah, Frank, that was absolutely what threw me off. I was like, what do you mean I can't get a waiver for sitting in a chair and hacking? I was doing Russia and Syria. I was doing a lot of that stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? That was pretty ridiculous. What's the difference in Office of Security for NSA versus CIA? I covered a little bit of this. Jens, did you, I don't know if you put the video up on that or not. If you didn't, I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying like there may be a short up on it. I don't know if there was. The long and the short of it really boils down to the mission sets, right? NSA is an intelligence gathering mission, right? Which means that they operate under Title 50. Right, of the legal U.S. code, which basically gives them the authority to spy, right? OCONUS to the rest of the world. The CIA's mission driver is Title 18, which is listed under the Counterintelligence Mission Directive, which gives them the ability to do things specifically, to counter anybody else's attempt to gather intelligence on us, right? And so I say all that to say their mission sets are vastly different, right? And so that's the first thing to realize about the difference in offensive cyber between the NSA and the CIA is their goals and objectives are different. In the NSA, their goal is to gather intelligence, which means access to intelligence gathering assets is the number one thing. What do I mean by that? This was ultimately why back in my day, when General Alexander was both head of director of NSA as well as head of U.S. Cyber Command, we had so many legal problems with JAG, which is the Judge Advocacy Group. For those who don't understand military acronyms, right? They're basically the lawyers for the services, right? I can tell this story. This was a long time ago. I don't think this. I'm pretty sure. I mean, my NDA is long expired. You can Google this. So this is totally Googleable, so you can kind of see some of this on your own. There was a magazine that Al-Qaeda had, it was written in English, called Inspire Magazine, that they would distribute globally to bolster the forces of their jihadist movements. they were starting to digitize it and put it in PDF and distribute it electronically. We had gotten word that we knew where the computer was that had the original copy of a future version of Inspire magazine, and we were tasked to go and do a military operation. Again, back to the 5 Ds: deny, degrade, destroy, disrupt, whatever. Deny, divide, yeah, whatever. Anyway, we were tasked with a military operation to go take care of the Inspire magazine. Part of the op plan that we had put together was we were going to leverage, and so one of the comments in chat was, does the NSA and CIA work hand in hand to each other? Sometimes. In this case, we had asked the CIA for some human intelligence, because that's one of the things that they're primarily tasked with, is gathering human intelligence. We had gotten human intelligence of basically an administrator for a core router at an ISP in the AOR, the area of responsibility, that governed an entire AS, or autonomous system node of networking in the AOR. And we had, so we were going to use that username and password to basically break into that core router, and we were going to put basically a backdoor that we had written at the agency, basically rewrite the firmware with an NSA backdoor on it into that entire system node. We were then going to use that to sniff credentials and gain access to this computer that had the Inspire magazine on it. Anyway, long-winded way of saying, we did it, we executed, we got on it, and we left the backdoor into the router for future, things that may happen in that area. When we did the after-action report, and we had presented to JAG and the commanding team the after-action report, JAG asked the question. Because they're thinking like kinetic warfare fighters. They're thinking like an airplane flies over and drops a bomb. And so their natural inclination as lawyers was to go, well, if your weapon hadn't worked, or if your weapon hadn't misfired, because again, in the military, an exploit, when you think about a Metasploit payload, when you think about an Empire C2 agent, when you think about Cobalt Strike or anything like that, in the military, those are referred to as weapons. Same as like an M16 or a 9mm or anything like that. Those are referred to as weapons. They're cyber weapons. And so JAG looked at that and said, could your weapon have misfired, meaning the backdoor we'd put on the router? And what would have been the second and third order effects if your weapon had misfired? It's a question we had not really been asked before as cyber operators at the time. And so we'd said, well, I guess technically speaking, if our weapon had misfired, that entire AS would have gone down. And JAG was like, okay, well, what else was attached to that AS? And we were like, well, there was this, and this. And oh yeah, there was a hospital over here that was servicing this region, and a power plant, blah, 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 blah. And they said, so wait a minute, hold on. If your weapon had misfired and the AS had gone down, you could have disrupted services to a hospital. Well, yeah. JAG put a stop to the entire unit that day until they did a full internal audit review, because in their mind, there was the potential of a law of armed conflict issue where we inadvertently hit a civilian asset, or could have hit a civilian asset with a weapon that we didn't take into account in the risk assessment. And so I say all that to say, like, the CIA doesn't fundamentally get to worry about things like that at all, because they have a counterintelligence mission where they're respectfully, legally authorized to conduct a lot more lenient operations in the name of preventing another nation state from conducting intelligence operations against us. And this really came to a head when we got an emergency order one time that there was a cell phone that the NSA was asked to hack into and the CIA was asked to hack into jointly. And we had developed this plan where we were going to go after an asset with signals intelligence, and NSA was like, no, we're just going to go grab a dude. We're going to snatch a dude off the street to gain access to this cell phone. And so one of them would have preserved the ability to gather future intelligence, what the NSA does. And one of them was like, no, we got a problem to solve right now. We got to solve the problem today. And so I say that's, do they work hand in hand? Sometimes, but their goals and outcomes and the things that they worry about are vastly different, right? And a lot of that boils down to the mission sets that they're tasked to do for the United States government. So, lots of more stories I could tell in that. Happy to talk. Happy to talk about those stories all day long. Absolutely do love talking about those stories. But that's the largest difference there between NSA and CIA. It just kind of really boils down to that mission set. Man, I love. Yeah, we had lots of fun times. Like I said, that's why I said, lots of fun times, lots of cool things to do. Just lots of fun mission. I enjoyed the mission stuff. Neil, any guide on how to get started in cybersecurity in 2025 as a person who has no skill in cybersecurity but with IT skills? Go do hands-on labs. Go do all the free stuff first. All the free stuff. Go do all the free stuff first. There's so much, I tell people this all the time, you should not spend money until you have exhausted the internet. Until you have exhausted the internet. There's so much free stuff out on the internet, you shouldn't pay a dime for it. Case in point, you're here listening to me tell stories about cyber. You're here getting free advice. Don't pay for it. Get it for free. Get it for free. Collaboration with Pirate Software win. Happy to do collabs. I need to, one of the reasons we missed Sec Data Ops yesterday was I was gonna do a year in review. Since it's December, I was gonna do a year in review stream with a tech leader, with a cyber leader, that unfortunately ended up getting stuck in a board of directors meeting that forced us to cancel. Unfortunately. So if anybody knows of folks that, listen, feel free to tag folks, on social media. Tell them, we should do a collaboration. Social influence is a thing, right? If you've got somebody on LinkedIn that you'd love to see on stream, tag them in LinkedIn, tag them on Twitter, right? Tag them wherever. Tag me too. Happy to do it. Happy to do it. I'm actually probably going to put out a post, maybe next week sometime. Potentially sometime next week, doing a call for folks. Anybody wants to be on stream? Not anybody wants to be on stream. Anybody who wants to be considered to be on stream. We obviously have a vetting process. For people who want to come be on stream. Interesting question from Big Bravo Brand. How do you match your personality to an IT career? I don't think your career drives your personality. Right? I don't know if you've met some people in cyber. We're not exactly normal from a personality perspective. Not gonna lie. Most of us in cyber are pretty weird. If you meet a normal person in cyber, that's the person I'd worry about. Right? I don't know. I've taken several personality tests. I remember the first time I took one of those Briggs-Myers tests for a job interview. It was the first time I'd been asked to take a personality test for a job interview. I was going for a pen testing role for a large hedge fund out of New Hampshire. And that should narrow it down for your OSINT skills there, right? Oh, hey, TikTok. Whoops. Thank you, TikTok, for reminding me that you have to be annoying to remind me that I'm still streaming on TikTok. Thank you. I was going for a pen testing role at a large hedge fund, right? And they had me take a Briggs-Myers test. It was the first time I'd ever taken a personality test at all whatsoever. And I didn't even know how to interpret the results back, but apparently I made it through the personality test. And I was like, hey, what do you guys use the personality test stuff for? And they were like, oh, well, we've got a general consensus on what the personality of the company is. And we because we're highly meritocratic, we want you to make sure that you can interface and interact with everybody on the team. And so we use your personality to kind of decide if you're a fit. And I was like, man, that's weird. I thought I was weird. That's weird. Right? And so, like, I don't know how to feel about this personality. So there's lots of comments in chat. I'm not going to read all these comments. Like Heisenberg says, your personality does not drive your personality. But if you had sales experience, you're going to do well on the phones, right? I think your personality helps whether you're going to feel comfortable doing sales stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't do sales, much to the crap that Jeff gives me. And Dave, I if you're listening to this, because I know Dave watches my stream, like, I know Dave says I'm like one of the best salespeople at Query. Dave, it's just you and I and Matt, really. Like, let's be honest, right? Well, I guess we have Billy now, but like, you know, I've got a 25% chance of being successful with you at Query, so I don't really catch that, right? And so, you know, I do think you have to have a certain personality to do sales. I don't think you have to have a certain personality to do IT or cyber. Right? Maybe if you counted personality as things like character traits, like, are you attention oriented? Are you attention to detail oriented? Do you like taking apart puzzles? Do you like, you know, troubleshooting and critical thinking and things like that? Yeah, absolutely. I think those, if you're counting those as personalities, I think those are personalities that generally speak well to the problems that we have to solve in cyber. But I don't believe you should match your personality to your career per se. I think you should strive to, like, there's competing opinions on this, and I understand that, right? Your job is going to fill a large part of your life. And so you should do what you love. But there are tons of people, right? There are tons of people who have a different personality at work than they do in their off work time. There are people who can say, I just come to this job and I do my job and I do my time and I leave and I go home. And I think those people do just fine. Right? And so I'm less of like, do what you love. Do what you love. And the work aspect and your personality and stuff like that, that stuff will come along. Right? Man, there's a lot of good questions. Lot of good questions in chat. Random, do you know anything about CMMC compliance? Yes. Ask a broad question, get a broad answer. Maybe if you could be a little bit more specific, we can see what we can do there with that one. Not being an asshole, just being me. Does the community have a free stuff catalog? Yes, hit up Discord. We have tons of cyber resources. We have an entire resource section in Discord. We'll get a mod to post the Discord link across all the socials. We have a lot of cyber resource we have a lot of cyber resource. Tell the caffeine's hitting in, getting a little jittery. Yeah, short circuit a little bit. Yes, we have tons of cyber resources on the Discord. Head over to the Discord, get tons of cyber resources. And what do? I just keep drinking more caffeine. Woo! Beard Sec is 100% right. I'm talking like a type now. There's definitely like, yeah, definitely a little bit of that. Definitely a little bit of that. Nothing is off topic here, Jonathan. Over on YouTube, it's an AMA. There's the last day there. It says anything. Ask me anything. Nothing is off topic. Love it. Love every question. What would you suggest the first 2 things to learn in cybersecurity? I'm thinking of going blue hat. I definitely think we need more blue teamers. Hands down, all day, every day of the week. Every day of the week, we need more blue teamers. I want to go back to talking to the Marines on Monday. Reminder, right, how that all came about. One of your community members reached out to me and said, hey, Neil, would you be willing to come to Camp Lejeune and speak to the Marines? I want to give a huge shout out to Maz. Maz was immense in helping me out with this. Maz helped coordinate. Between Maz and Whisper, they got everything worked out. We figured it out, and we got down to Camp Lejeune to speak to them. And so I say all that to say, I'm happy to come wherever you are and speak on invitation. Right? Absolutely love to come to speak at your company, real company or military company. Happy to do virtual speaking engagements. Right? These are largely free. I'm not charging you for this by any stretch of the imagination. I love doing this stuff. I do it for free. So if you got it, reach out. Be more than happy to do a speaking engagement with you, right? But I loved talking to the Marines because, like, and one of the first things I told the Marines when I showed up there was I not only thanked them for their service, which you've heard me do here on the stream before as well, but I thanked them for being cyber defenders. Because we don't have enough people defending organizations these days. And so that was really what I wanted them to take away from was thank you for choosing to stand in the way of our adversaries, whether they're military or civilian or cyber criminals or whatever the case is, that, you know, stand in the way of our adversaries. They're trying to break into our networks. And so we absolutely need more blue teamers. So I say all that to say, like, you know, if you can look past the very fake, very unreal movie-esque aspect of hacking, and this is coming from a former NSA hacker who up until 2015 spent his entire life in offensive security, right? Look past that. Go defend something. You will never have a more truer sense of satisfaction. Cypher Enigma on a 3-stream streak. Love it. On that same note, oh, wait, I guess to your question, right? What would you suggest the first 2 things to learn in cybersecurity? Business and communication skills. There you go. Not what you were expecting, I'm sure. Neil didn't say anything technical. That's right, because the first 2 things you should learn about are business and communication skills. Great question. What's the ratio for red, blue, and purple team? Blue is more needed. Also purple team. Purple team's still emerging. I wouldn't say that you're going to find a lot of job advertisements for purple team per se. You'll find more job advertisements for blue team. I always say this. So, and I've talked about this on stream ad nauseum, right? When I was building security operations team, I had a team of 70 at one of the companies that I worked at that I built. I had 1 pen tester, right? So enterprises don't staff an army of pen testers. They just don't, right? You may have 1 or 2 or 3. Most pen testers are in consulting companies. Why? Because it's cheaper and easier to pay that as a service. And I can tell you with things like Attack IQ, they're not sponsored to stream, but you know, their banner's still back there. I'm waiting for my good friend Jason to send me some. Oh, speaking of swag. Hamster. grab it. I got some swag here that I got to tell you about. I'm gonna put it right here in my lap so I don't forget to tell you about it. There are more needs and job postings and advertisements for blue teamers than there are for red teamers. There always will be, because we need more defenders than we need red teamers. And that's not to say don't learn the hacking stuff. Like, don't make the illogical leap that I'm not saying we don't need red teamers and we don't need pen testers. What I'm saying to you is there is more of a need on the defensive side. So while this is fresh on my mind and I've got it sitting in my lap, mark your calendars. Mark your calendars. Pay attention to social media. Hit those social media, hit that exclamation point socials in chat. Follow the socials starting December 17th. December 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we tried to put it so it was still good for West Coast, still good for our friends overseas. We're starting a bi-monthly cyber insecurity threat brief right here on the Cyber Insecurity channel. Be twice a month, so every other Tuesday at 11 a.m., threat brief. For the first one on December 17th, we're giving stuff away. So, you guys probably saw last week or 2 weeks ago during Sec Data Ops, we had Noah. I can't pronounce the dude's last name. I'm going to mess it up. We had Noah on stream talking about life in a SOC. If you remember that, right? Great stream. Go back and watch it. Jens has been putting up a ton of clips on it. We talked about being a SOC. BitLift, we've had Jason on from BitLift a year ago. BitLift is an MSP, and so we like MSPs because MSPs deal with cybersecurity at a lot of companies. So they see a lot of threats. They see real stuff that's happening on the wire that they're having to contend with on a day-to-day basis. They are the epitome of what we talk about when we talk about frontline soldiers, right? And so Jason and I have had this idea for a year where what if what Jason and the team at BitLift are seeing for real actionable threats on the wire, what could we put together for a threat brief that we could deliver of value to the community, right? You can watch my 60-second cybers for like my hot takes on news articles that hit, right? I think Jerry does a daily cyber brief that talks about stuff that he sees in the news. But what I wanted to bring to value to all of you was I wanted to bring to value what real frontline soldiers were seeing every day. And so Jason and I have been molding this over for a year, and we finally decided, we came up with a game plan, and we think that we have what could be a very, very informative, deep dive threat brief that you guys could walk into, see what his team is seeing for real attacks on real enterprises every week that you could take back to your orgs to action on. That's the vision, that's the dream, that's the goal that we had when we came up with this idea. And so starting December 17th, 11 a.m., that's what's going to be coming to you. And so with that, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We've got these keyboard lap pad things that Jason had sent to me. My wife uses the hell out of this, right? Care of the BitLift team. We're going to be giving away those on stream in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, somewhere around there, 2 weeks, right? So super excited for that. Super excited to be launching this new show with you. So that's, I've had people ask like, hey Neil, you've been streaming quite a lot and Sec Data Ops has been going on since May and now you're launching a new show. Well, yeah, I'm feeling pretty spry. The cancer's kind of subsided. I've gotten into a good routine with golf. Feeling pretty good. I think it's time to bring back to being on camera in front of you guys a little bit more. And so, yeah, with that being said, excited to announce the new show. Excited to bring you some valuable threat intel from the front lines. My ask, obviously, for the first few, as with any new show, please tune in, not for the viewership, but to give me feedback. Right? I need the feedback from the community as to whether the information is valuable. Again, back to Discord, hit that exclamation point Discord and chat. Head over to Discord. We have a community feedback section. We want your feedback. Let me know if it's any good, right? And if it's not, we'll trash it, adjust it, make changes to it, but I need your feedback. I don't want to put garbage content in front of you. That's not my goal. This is a partnership with BitLift, but it is not a paid engagement. I want to say that expressly clear. BitLift is not paying for this spot. Jason is not paying for this spot. Right? It's not paid at all. This isn't corporate sponsorship. This is something that Jason and I want to do to bring value to the community. And so this, if you're new to the channel, we've taken corporate money before, but we've taken corporate money with a very transparent, like when Attack IQ was a sponsor, we took their money and we bought, if you remember all the giveaways we used to do, we did giveaways practically every week. We took their money and we bought Try Hack Me vouchers, Hack the Box vouchers, we bought INE vouchers, we bought all sorts of shit, and we gave it back away to the community. And so you can guarantee, right? You can guarantee that anything that we do, we're trying to do for you, and it's not to line our pockets. That is my promise to you. Any money that we make, we intentionally try to give back to the community as much as humanly possible. So, please provide me feedback so that we can make sure that we deliver the best possible content for you as humanly possible. Give a huge shout out to the BitLift team for volunteering their time and expertise to do this as well. Great question, Cypher Enigma. Is this separate from the GRC segment you were planning to? Yes. 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 That's another show. We're in the early stages of talks. I'm not ready to say who it is yet. I may have in previous streams. If I did, you can go back to previous streams and see it. I don't remember if I did or not. Yes, we're going to have a GRC person. And again, my goal for you is to bring you real world content, right? I've made my entire streaming career telling my story and my history and my real world experiences to you all. And my desire for content is to bring you folks. I can't be an expert in everything. I don't claim to be an expert in everything. I claim to be a very opinionated person. But I don't claim to be an expert in anything. So my goal is to bring expert folks to you for you to talk to. And so, yes, we're in the early stages, similar to like what we're doing with Jason and the BitLift team around threat intelligence. I'm in early stages of talks with an individual where we will be bringing a dedicated GRC show. So it'll also be on a frequency basis. We've yet to work through those logistics, where we will be talking about topics that are GRC specific, GRC centric. And that will probably be, we're aiming for January time period. So yeah, new shows on the horizon. Yes, BeardSec, I know your surprised Pikachu face at my opinionated voice. But I love it. Like, I mean, this is what we do. This is what we do. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, we're not done yet this morning, but I want to give a huge shout out to my mod team in chat. Panzer, BeardSec. Make sure you give a huge shout out to my mods. They are here voluntarily, supporting you and keeping chat. I see there were some deleted messages in chat. Thank you for the mod team for keeping chat free of any racist, sexist, toxic, misogynistic, or elitist personalities. Give a huge hands across the chat platform for our mods. Weird people love to comment on my appearance. Like, I know I've lost weight. You guys know I'm down 16 pounds since, I don't know when, 2 months? Basically since the off season of golf, I'm down 2 pounds. Not 2 pounds. 16 pounds. I gotta check my app. I'm down 16 pounds. So thank you for commenting on my appearance. I realize I'm a handsome motherfucker. Only I didn't say that. Now somebody shows up in my YouTube comments complaining about my teeth. You guys are obsessed with my looks. You guys are obsessed with my looks. I love it. I love it. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much, Heisenberg, for the subscribe with Prime. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. How's the golf game going? Speaking of my handsome, charming, good looks, doing any simulator sessions? Yes. So on the golf topic, since you asked the question about golf, I can't not answer a golf question. I had a tournament last weekend in Myrtle Beach. First tournament of 2025. First with the new league. Oh, hi Zenberg. Thank you so much. Oh, I heart you. Thank you so much. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. I just want to give you guys as much information as humanly possible. First tournament of 2025 season, and I was stupid. Not for the golf tournament. I was stupid for thinking that it was going to be warm on Thanksgiving Day weekend in Myrtle Beach. Because it was not. It was absolutely not warm. There was a frost delay because when I woke up to get to the golf course at 7:30 in the morning, it was 30-something degrees in the morning. I do know better. I should have known better, Beardsec. So there was a frost delay, so my 8:45 tee time ended up being a 10 o'clock tee time. And I had to wear those double golf gloves on both hands because it was so cold. Miserable. I was absolutely miserable. And so I have shunned off the remainder of my wintertime golf tournaments that are not in Florida. Okay. I will not be, I've already withdrawn from the tournament that was supposed to be going on tomorrow because I'm not going back down to Myrtle Beach because it's supposed to be back in the 20s and 30s again for lows in the morning. It was the most miserable experience. And I was like, I've got 4.5 years to get to a plus handicap. I do not need to waste them in the frigid cold trying to play golf like a maniac. So I'm in the simulator daily, 500 to 1,000 swings a day in the simulator, trying to get my game up in the simulator. And I'm just going to resign myself that as long as it is, below 50 degrees outside here in the North Carolina area, I will not be participating in outdoor golf. I got time. I don't need to grind. I do not need to sacrifice that much for the cold weather. Thank you for asking. Yeah, see, Beardseck's right. Today the high is 45. Sunday the high is 65. You know what? On Sunday, I'll make a tea time. Yeah, not interested. Not interested in that whatsoever. So no, there'll be tons more simulator sessions. Definitely spending a lot of practice time. That is why I've lost so much weight. I've been in the gym daily almost, trying to swing faster. Reduced my caloric intake pretty significantly. Like I'm probably at 11 to 1,200 calories a day ish or so. So I think if all the magic numbers that like my Whoop and my phone and everything else tell me, like I'm probably on like a 600 or 700 caloric deficit, somewhere around in there. Yeah, dude, food is rough. Food is rough. And so, yeah, so I'm down 16 pounds. What do I think about penetration tester or red team? I think it's awesome. Go forth and be awesome. Like, I mean, bacon. Yeah, no bacon. I mean, this is a weird question. What do I think about it? I mean, I lived my entire life doing offensive security, right? I mean, I think it's awesome. But I mean, understand, it's not, companies just don't value it the way that you value it yourself. That's the bottom line. I think this is what's hard for people to realize about pen testing. You value it more than companies do. On the flip side of that, Frank over on YouTube says, can you explain the difference between SecOps and SOC? Well, so SecOps is short for Security Operations, and SOC is an acronym for Security Operations Center. So one is a noun, one is a verb. I think. Is that right? BeardSec, you're my linguistic checkpoint. Security operations is the activity of doing security operations. A security operations center is where it happens. Nouns and verbs, right? And so the function of security operations is to run the security of an organization, right? So if we think about the CISO org, right? So you've got an enterprise, you've got a CEO, you've got a CIO, which typically runs all the IT assets, and then you've got a CISO, which is the Chief Information Security Officer, which runs all of security operations in addition to other stuff, right? And so inside of a CISO org, you have security architecture, you have governance, risk, and compliance, you have security operations, and then you've got other stuff, but I would say those three represent the core skeletal, muscular, and neurological system. Wow, I dropped a biology there on that one, of a security organization inside of a company. And so what are those three things too, right? Obviously, GRC, we talk ad nauseum about GRC. They are governance, risk, and compliance. How do you govern, maintain the risk, and ensure compliance to the security practices in your organization? Security architecture is pretty easy. How do you work with the business to ensure that they are architecting the business in a secure fashion? And then you have security operations, which is how do you, on a day-to-day basis, operationalize the process of securing an enterprise? And so inside of security operations, you have your SOC, which is your Security Operations Center, which usually has your security analysts, security engineers, incident responders, threat hunters, forensics folks, if you're big enough to have a forensic shop. Anything that, pen testers, if you have them, yes, I don't want to leave them out, right? You have your vulnerability management folks, right? All of these folks that you talk about, they run the day-to-day operations of security in an enterprise. And so that's the biggest, when we talk about what a SOC is, what a SOC does, what security operations is, that's really what we're talking about. I think sometimes people get lost when they think about a security org, because especially questions like about the pen tester question, right? Security isn't pen testing. Pen testing isn't security, right? Security is the governance and the operations for an entire enterprise. The world of security in an enterprise is massive. If there's anybody in chat, like if Regigil was here, I think Regigil and I've had this conversation where we talk about just that realization about how big cyber is in some of these orgs, right? Even a security analyst, right? You only see the blinky red lights that are on the SIM in front of you on a day-to-day basis, right? There's so much more to running security for a large enterprise than the blinky red lights that you see on a day-to-day basis. And I think there's definitely a lot of forest and trees conversations that happen when I talk to folks in cybersecurity, especially who are early on, right? The biggest one comes with things like, oh my God, why don't they just patch that vulnerability? Right? And that's a perfect example where, because you're boots on the ground, because you're day-to-day, because you're fighting the fight on a day-to-day basis, and you see that vulnerability, you're like, why can't they just patch that vulnerability? But you have no idea the implications, if you will, of those vulnerabilities. How widespread are they? Are they on a production system? I'll give you an example. We do it to ourselves. Like, this isn't like, there's lots of cases where we get in our own ways. This has been long enough. I don't think that there's anything wrong with me talking about this. One of the first, when we first bought St. Jude Medical at Abbott, they were doing pacemakers, right? And there was a CVE that had been released that was a critical vulnerability. And most vulnerability analysts were like, oh my God, why are you not patching this vulnerability? And we had to realize that before we could even patch the vulnerability, we had to get FDA approval. Because it was a medical device. And it was inside of a person's heart. And so because it was FDA approved, you can't just issue a patch for a critical vulnerability and push it out without ensuring that if that patch broke that medical device, that it didn't give some old person a heart attack. Now, that's an extreme example, but that's an example of how just patch the vulnerability isn't the answer to vulnerability management. This is why a lot of the function of a security org is about managing the risk of the enterprise. And yeah, there's lots of fun operational roles like SOC and pen testing and threat hunting and stuff like that. Lots of fun operational stuff. But the overarching mission of the entire security org is centered around risk management. And I think sometimes security folks forget that. Right? So the SOC is there to operationalize the day-to-day of protecting the enterprise. Oh, man. Thank you. Of course, everyone in InfoSec should sub to this guy. He's doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Do you still do CV reviews? We haven't in a while, but I want to get back into them, right? So BeardSec, he gives me a lot of shit in chat, but he's been one of my closest. I don't think I'm ready to use the word friend yet. Stream coworkers, stream accountability partners, since I've started this journey. I'm not going to get sappy. Lord knows I'm not going to get sappy. He does a really good job of taking the wet tuna and slapping me in the face with reality when I talk about, because if it weren't for him and Carmen, I'd be streaming 5 days a week right now. You can blame the fact that I was not streaming 5 days a week on him and Carmen together. But what would happen is I'd stream 5 days a week. I'd get burnout after a month, and then I'd take a hiatus. And so a lot of the slowness in my return has to do with good friends, good accountability partners like BeardSec, making sure that I'm pacing myself in conjunction with the, advice of my doctor, with the responsibility that I've got, trying to be exceptional at golf, and mentally making sure that I don't burn myself out. And so that's why we're taking it slow with things like, we started doing Sec Data Ops, right? Twice a month. It was a real easy stream, 1 hour, middle of the day. You notice we started to do that. And then we brought back in Tea with a Hacker, and we did those as well. And we're building that muscle back from cancer of doing streams. And so what I would say is that we will go back to doing resume reviews. Matter of fact, we had a conversation, BeardSec and I sat down and had a conversation maybe 6 months-ish or so ago, about how to do them more efficiently than we had done them in the past, right? Because they're quite a bear to do. They're quite a bear to do if you've ever seen one. And so, we have put thought into making them the most efficient thing possible. What I want to do, what my commitment to you is that I'm taking the advice of those closest to me, like BeardSec, like Carmen, and I'm pacing myself so that I don't let you down. That's my biggest fear as a streamer, is that I let you guys down. And so be patient with me, right? Be patient as we come back. Thank you for tuning in, all of you from across the world. I really do appreciate it. Continue to support the journey on social media. Continue to show up and ask questions at the streams. Give me feedback on if the streams are good or not, right? I appreciate all of you. I, unfortunately, have to go to my day job now. I appreciate Matt and the team at Query that lets me do this content on the regular. They know it's very important to me to be able to give back to the community in this regard. And so, I'm very grateful to them and to the entire Query team as well. I appreciate every single one of you. We do have, I will be in Chicago next week. Reminder, I'll be in Chicago next week. I've had 2 people from the community reach out to meet with me. Stay in my DMs. We will absolutely be meeting in Chicago. So there will be no Tea with a Hacker next Friday because I'll be on a plane coming back from Chicago next Friday. But to make up for it, I'm working with the team to see if we can't get a stream in the midweek. Hopefully we can get an Old Guy Wednesday in on Wednesday to make up for no Tea with a Hacker. But with that being said, whether you're on the red side or the blue side or still deciding, stay awesome. And we'll see you next time.